Afghanistan against England, T20 World Cup preview with myself, Steve Wyss, and Kevin Harper. How are you doing, Kev? Are you looking forward to the start of this main group stage in the T20 World Cup?
Yeah, I am, Steve. Yeah, in many ways, the tournament kind of starts now, doesn't it? I don't think I got what I deserved in the first group stage, so hopefully the cricketing gods can shine down on us and give us some back.
2 new teams to get stuck into and a new venue as well. We are in Perth in Western Australia. We're in a completely different time zone here, and the match is going to be kicking off at 7 p.m. local, I do believe.
Which, more importantly, is 12 noon in England, and boy, does my body clock need that.
Yeah, it's a much more of a sociable time zone for those of us in Europe. So Perth in Western Australia, this is an isolated venue, nothing else out here. And we're at the Opus Stadium, which does actually exist, although Google Earth is rather embarrassing for Google Earth. But that is where it is in Perth in Western Australia. Let me see if I can find a better one for this. That's a bit poor, isn't it, from Google Earth there? But it's not just used for cricket, this stadium, is it? It's there's some other things that it gets you, rugby, and I guess anything else out there it can be used for. So I've just got a better view of it here. Optus Stadium. Now, it is known, it's like an egg shape, is this, like an oval. But where the cricket pitch comes in, this looks a damn short straight boundary to me. Probably the shortest straight boundary in the whole tournament, perhaps. So thoughts on that, Kev? It could be a massive square boundary, though.
Yeah, it's exactly that, Steve. Yeah, very straight, very short straight. Probably even play shorter than it looks there, actually. And very, very, very big square. Not too dissimilar, really, to the Wacker. That was kind of similar, albeit not to these extremes.
Fairly new stadium, of course. I think it's only been in existence for about 5 years or something like that, maybe even sooner, as the initial Google Earth image would have shown. Now, let's check the weather forecast for this game then. And it's good. This is where you want to be in Australia. There is actually a little bit of rain due on Sunday and Monday, but in general, Western Australia known for much better weather and no problems here compared to those venues on the East Coast. It's going to be a sunny evening into the night. This is a day-night match, of course, fully dry, so nothing to worry about in this regard. It's going to be all systems go for a full T20 match, Kev.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, very little rain in this part of the world. Yeah, perfect conditions. Great for cricket.
It's exactly what we want for cricket. Let's move on to the teams then. And England are the short price favourites here. 1.14 is the biggest price you can get on them. The second favourites to win the T20 Cup. And this, in theory, will be one of their easiest matches. You would fully expect them to get the job done. But England heading into this match, how are they looking for you, Kev?
In and out, Steve, really. I mean, obviously, when we did the outright preview podcast, they looked really good because Reece Topley was around for a death bowling option, and a death bowling option of good note as well. I mentioned throughout that podcast, you look back at the last two of these, and it's the death bowling that's caned England. And I thought they got it sorted out, but unfortunately, Reece Topley slipped on a boundary rope in the warm-up game earlier in the week. And that's him done for the tournament. Tim Mills has been called up as his replacement. First and foremost, I don't think that's a good idea anyway. He's no better in terms of injuries than Reece Topley. But also, I don't think he's going to be there in time for this game. Or if he is there in time for this game, I presume he's going to need a day or two to acclimatise to everything after a long flight. I don't think he was a travelling reserve. Certainly, I didn't see any notification of the fact that he is a travelling reserve. Like I said, I don't particularly think. I think he's past his best anyway. I think his time was last year rather than this year. So that's a concern. How are England going to balance their side in the absence of Topley? Well, another problem they've got is it sounds like Chris Woakes isn't going to be fit for this game either. So that's two bowlers down that England are. That's good for our outright because it looks like Sam Curran's definitely going to get in the side now. But it looks like that England are going to go in with an extra batter, Liam Livingstone, and they're going to play four bowlers, and they're going to use Moeen Ali and Liam Livingstone's spin with a bit of Ben Stokes mixed in as that fifth bowler. So there's a weakness all of a sudden that's appeared for England. We still don't know just how fit Liam Livingstone is, although he did play in the warm-up game against Pakistan on Monday, and the match was at the Gabba, and some of the balls he was hitting were landing in Sydney. So from that point of view, he certainly doesn't look like he's been out of nick in the 6 or 7 weeks he's had off since his injury in the 100. But again, this is serious stuff. That was largely slap and tickle sort of stuff. So there's an issue. Also, it looks like you'd imagine that Livingstone's going to bat at 5. Certainly, I hope so, for reasons I'll document in a little while. And that's going to push Harry Brook down, then it's going to push Moeen down. So it's a big reshuffle this close to the tournament. But they can't do anything about it because of the Topley injury.
Let's move on to Afghanistan then. And there might be some people watching this or listening to this and wondering what sort of team Afghanistan are in cricketing terms. They qualified for this tournament outright, of course, legitimately. I didn't have to go through the qualifying or anything like that. There is more about Afghanistan in the outright T20 World Cup preview from last week. You want to check that video. But just briefly, what sort of cricketing side are they, and what sort of a challenge are they going to offer England?
Well, I didn't think they were going to offer any challenge to England, Steve. But then you look at the first sort of 6 days of this tournament, and there's been an awful lot more spin involved than I thought. A ball hasn't really spun in the entire tournament yet. I mean, you look at that group down in Hobart in particular. You know, ball never turned an inch. Yet you had Delaney taking 3 wickets. You had Watt taking 2 or 3 wickets. You know, you had the other Irish bowler, Simi Singh, he took wickets. Akil Hossain, it's very, very weird. And I can only imagine that that's because the new ball's doing so much damage and spinners are bowling at sort of lower batsmen in the order sort of thing. I mean, if spin does come to the party, and I can't for 1 minute believe it's going to here in Perth, but if it does do, then Afghanistan have got more of a chance than I might have given them credit for.
Are England a shoo-in to win at this price?
I mean, they should be a shoo-in, but 2 things. One, there's no such thing as a shoo-in in 20 over cricket. In any sport, in any walk of life, the shorter the distance that you have to cover, the more likely a favourite gets turned over, whether that's in a 100-metre sprint, 6-a-side football, or whatever it may be. So there's that. And also, you look at them first 2 groups, do you really want to be on a 10-1 shot? Having seen what we've seen in this tournament so far, we've seen Sri Lanka turned over at this price. We've seen West Indies turned over at this price. We've seen Namibia, a very, very short price, twice turned over. This ain't been a tournament for the favourites, so not for the weak of heart. If you back England, yes, they should win, but this is 20 over cricket, and anyone on their day can have their day.
3 bets for this game then. We're going to start with an England market. England to hit over 7.5 sixes. 3 unit selection at Betway here at 5 to 6. Talk us through your reasoning for this one.
Yeah, I mean, if you do back England, if you do fancy England in this game, Steve, there's a variety of ways that you can get involved that you don't have to sweat your nuts off on a 10-1 on shot, and this is one of them. England have got egos, haven't they? They're an ego side. They love to express themselves. It's not a bad thing. It's a perfectly good thing. They're a confident, expressive side, and ever since Owen Morgan took over, they've always sort of wanted to lay markers out, whether it's in the first game of an ODI series, first game of a T20 series, or the first game of a tournament like this. And that's exactly what I expect them to do here. I expect them to go to Perth, and I expect them to have their chests out and put on a real sort of aggressive, high-powered, energetic, big hitting display, and kind of take control of this group from an early stage. I mean, in theory, Afghanistan are the weakest of the 4 sort of top sides in this group. Obviously, the group's been joined by 2 others over the weekend, but this is the one that England knew were their opponents and have been able to prepare for this. And the other advantage England have got, Steve, is one of the T20 internationals they played in that series ahead of this tournament against Australia was in Perth on this ground. They hit 9 sixes, and that was a pretty decent Australia attack. It wasn't a full Australia attack because they left some of them on the east coast so that they weren't flying through time zones and everything else. But it still had Nathan Ellis. Hampshire fans will know all about him. He led us to T20 glory earlier in the season. 1 or 2 other recognisable ones. Kane Richardson played in the 100, and a couple of others. They hit 9 sixes in that innings, and something like 25 fours. Well, they're not going to hit 25 fours in this match because they're going to be facing a battery of spin. So you look at the dimensions of the ground. and they won't be hitting spin for 4s, they'll be hitting it for 6s, and that in itself is one of the reasons why I fancy this bet. If you go back to that Google Earth image that Steve put up earlier, the straight hits, you don't even need to hit the middle of the bat. In fact, you can turn the bat around and still hit it for 6. In fact, you could use the handle and hit it for 6 down to those straight boundaries. It's well known, and I just can't see how the Afghanistan spinners can consistently bowl a length that stops England hitting it down the ground. Because as a spinner, you want to pitch it up to the bat and try and beat the bat. And then obviously in turn the batsman will counteract that by trying to hit it straight down the ground, so that the biggest part of the bat is facing the ball, and that's a recipe for success. Whereas if they had an armory of seamers, or for example when England bowl, you'll see England bowl a hell of a lot of bouncers or shorter balls that can only go square of the wicket, and that'll be the difference. And that's why I like the England 6s, not the match 6s, Steve. Not guaranteed that Afghanistan are going to hit 6s, but I think England will. Obviously, the one thing we always say when we're only backing one team in these things, what happens if a team puts up a low score? Well, I think England will still come out all guns blazing, but I actually don't think Afghanistan will put that low score up. They bat pretty deep. Rashid Khan's going to bat about 8 in this match, so plenty of batting for Afghanistan. Even if they only put up, I don't know, 110, something like that, if they bat first, that should be enough for England, who've got Butler, Hales, David Malan, Ben Stokes in their top 4, all with a point to prove, all wanting to come out and show that they're number one.
England over 7.5 6s looks a good selection there. Even if they are chasing a low score, they're just going to want to get that score done in 6s. So hopefully they can fire plenty over the ropes there. We've got a second selection here for the game, and it's in the performance market at Bet365. Mohammad Nabi over 29.5 performance points. Remember, 1 point for every run scored, 10 points for a catch, and 20 points for a wicket, and 25 for a stumping if you want a wicket keeper. Mohammad Nabi, then, how is he going to get these 30 points required for this bet, Kev?
Yeah, El Presidente, as they call him, Steve. The first thing to note, Mohammad Nabi is a regular in the Big Bash. So if anyone's going to know these Australian conditions, it's him. He's played for the Melbourne Renegades, and I think he played for one of the others, but perhaps the Adelaide team. Rashid Khan's the other one who's a regular in the Big Bash. So that's one good thing. He's in good form. He had an excellent sort of second half of the season. He only played the second half of the season in the Caribbean Premier League as a replacement for one of the Sri Lankans that disappeared off to the Asia Cup. So he's in good form from there. Since he's landed in Australia, Afghanistan have played 1.5 warm-up games, and he scored 41 not out against Bangladesh, 51 not out against Pakistan. Their bowling innings was curtailed in that game because of the rain. But it just shows you that he's comfortable in these conditions with the bat in hand, and that's half the battle here. But also, hello, 3D cricketer Claxon, yet again. He's one of those because he'll bowl his 4 overs of spin. He's the captain of this side, so he'll get to choose when he bowls it as well. He's a pretty good spinner. These two met in the 2016 World Cup 6 years ago in Delhi. Not really a track known for a spin, but he bowled his 4 overs, 2 for 17, and took 2 catches in that game as well. So just with the ball alone, he scored 60 points. Funnily enough, one of those was a caught and bowled. So if we get one of those here, happy days, and we're off to the pub to spend the winnings. He'll field himself in key areas as captain as well. So he's always in the game with his hands. But his spin bowling, particularly with all the left-handers that England have in their lineup. So you've got Malan at 3, you've got Stokes at 4, and you've got Moeen Ali possibly at 6, if not 7, and then you've got Sam Curran after him. So that's 4 left-handers. That's significant because we're in a world of what cricket analysts will call matchups, and an off-spinner to a left-hander is a matchup. So he's going to bowl his 4 overs in probably key situations. If Rashid Khan and Mujib are economical in this match, someone's going to have to go the distance, and that'll be Mohammad Nabi. So England will take their risks against him. I think this line's low. Any performance, I said it last week, any performance for a 3D cricketer that's below 30, you've almost got to back it blind, but you've certainly got to do so when you're backing a player who knows the conditions and is in good form.
I'll tell you what, it's got to be some decent winnings to go into a pub and spend it, hasn't it, these days, Kev, with the price of a pint. But
yeah, very true. Yeah, you maybe down the offie and get a few cans.
True, very true indeed. Mohammad Nabi performance over 29.5 there. for another 3-unit selection. We've got one final pick for this game. We're in the man of the match market here. Liam Livingstone at 14-1 for England.
Yeah, I mentioned it the other day in one of the podcasts. I'm a firm believer in home ground sort of familiarity. This is Liam Livingstone's, it has been Liam Livingstone's home ground in the Big Bash. He's actually going to go and play for the Melbourne Renegades this year. Livingstone, funnily enough, he was a teammate at Lancashire of your mate Finn Allen, who you hadn't heard of, Steve, even though he played 9 games for Yorkshire this summer, may I tell you. Nine games. He'll bat a 5 in this game for England, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad position to be in, because Majib's definitely going to open the bowling for Afghanistan. And it might be, that as Hales and Butler try and sort of put England on the front foot, they come up a little bit short. And if they do, that opens the door for Livingstone. I've already mentioned at the start of this podcast, it looks like Livingstone's going to actually bowl a few overs in this game, just because England are going to play only 4 sort of out-and-out bowlers. And we all know what a crackerjack batsman he is, particularly here. I mean, he's hit a straight 6 last summer against Pakistan, Steve, which you'll be able to recognise. It cleared that glass monstrosity at Headingley, cleared it on the full. So that's how big he hits a straight 6. So it's clearly he isn't going to need anything like that power here to hit a straight 6. It's one of those that if England set the innings up for him without someone going particularly big, he could soon catch up in absolutely no time. He tries and clobbers everything out of the park. It's actually something that I think is a weakness of his, because I think he's a much better player than that. But on his home ground, he'll know these conditions. Some of the England players will still be getting used to them. In that game, funnily enough, that England played here, Hales and Butler batted for about 14 overs. It was basically it was them and then not a lot else. So, familiarity in conditions, I really like that sort of thing. And he's just a big price given that he's going to bat, or he should bat. He's likely to bowl. He's a decent enough fielder as well, and he's that kind of confident sort of strutty cricketer that gets noticed. And it's a fan vote, isn't it, to get this? He's a popular lad, so we'll see. We'll pay to see if he can contribute. I think it's one of those. If he top scores for England, because of the way he does it, he'll be the man of the match. So you may as well take him in this market, because he might sort of sneak you 2 or 3 wickets, as opposed to the top batsman market at half the price, or whatever the price may be. Looking at there, 10-1. Maybe this market might be the one instead.
Do you say glass monstrosity at Headingley, Kev?
Yeah.
The Carnegie Pavilion, or it won't be Carnegie now because I think they dropped the sponsorship, but I tell you what, it's nowhere near as bad as the red letterbox monstrosity at Old Trafford that he would, I'm sure, be targeting when he's playing there. So, Liam, the thing with Livingstone, I'll say about this bet, when he does something, you take note, don't you? Like, you remember.
Yeah, when he does something, you don't even need to see it. It's on social media within seconds.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? This is a fan vote. If he does something, if he clobbers 120 metre 6 or something, which he's more than capable of doing, that's on social media before you can say Alkazay Kazam, and all of a sudden he's getting some votes, isn't he?
Who's going to be the top batsman for England in this match, Kev? There's plenty of candidates.
Yeah, there are. I'm a big Milan fan in this tournament, Steve. I can see myself backing him quite a few times. Yeah, he'd probably be the pick, but yeah, I fancy Livingstone. Something just tells me the England innings is going to be set up for a Livingstone cameo.
We are on David Milan outright, of course. If you check back the preview, outright tournament preview last week, hopefully he can fill his boots in this game. We will have a look now at the top Afghanistan batsman market. Not too familiar with many of these, I must say, Kev. Do you know your Ramanullah Gurabaz from your Darwish Rasuli?
Yeah, I do actually, Steve, because Ramanullah Gurbaz has been playing for the Guyana Amazon Warriors in the Caribbean Premier League. He was due to play for Leicestershire in the T20 Blast, but that didn't materialise in the end. I can't remember the exact reason why he didn't come over, but his teammate, Naveen Ulhaq, the bowler for Afghanistan, they were coming over together, but it didn't happen. Najibullah Zadran, anyone who watches cricket around the world, they'll know him. Hazrat Al-Zazai, he's the guy who's replaced Mohammad Shahzad at the top of the innings. He's the sort of get after it and slog it. If that's a proper price on Usman Ghani, and I must admit, because I'm not betting in this market, I've not had a proper look at it. But if that's a proper price, 14-1 at Betfred, as opposed to the 7-2 everywhere else,
that is a standout, isn't it? Yeah.
You've almost got to take that, because he bats at 4 for Afghanistan.
I don't know how legitimate that price is, but
if that is a price on this market, and they're not, and that's not a list of a different market or something, then you're pretty much priced into that. The other two prices are more reflective of his. He'll bat at 4, or I'm pretty sure he'll bat at 4.
He's the favourite with the other these two bookmakers here, so
yeah,
you don't go from the favourite to a 14-1. It might not be a legit price.
Yeah, check that out. But if it is, and you can get anything on it, then it's worth.
It looks like it is. It looks like it is, but
unless they've got like 2 of them confused or something like that. It might be that you back it, he wins, and you get palped. But
maybe they just got messed up with his batting order position. Maybe they just don't like him. You might might just not like the player.
It is definitely worth that. When you look at our outright, our latest outright preview that's coming up later, you'll understand a bit more why I like him anyway.
Brilliant. So 3 bets for this game then. Let's have a recap on it. Let me just get the screen up. We've got England over 7.5 sixes at 5-6 with 3 units there with Betway. Mohammad Nabi performance line over 29.5, another 3-unit pick, Bet365. Liam Livingstone man of the match 14-1. Thanks very much for watching. Do hit that like button if you are on YouTube. Appreciate all the shares as well. Quick reminder of the socials. We've got 4 Twitter accounts for you to follow involving ourselves, and also do check out Kev's website at kevs@sportsbets.com. So we'll catch you around very soon for some more T20 World Cup cricket previews. Goodbye.